Allison Dowd from the Brandon Sun.
This question is directed at Ms. Sherry Decterhurst specifically. You have promised to keep the Sportsplex pool operational even after the new YMCA opens. Does that mean that if you are elected as our mayor, you will tear up the agreement made in recent weeks between the city and the YMCA that does call for the planned closure of the Sportsplex following the Y's expansion?
That's an excellent question because, of course, it was a very unusual arrangement that closed the Sportsplex pool 3 years from now when they embedded it into a contract, because keeping the pool open now makes the city in breach of contract, and it's a big risk and a liability that we're going to have to consider, because that pool needs to stay open. Absolutely, it loses money. Pools
so
always
would you be
do.
prepared to tie the city's lawyers up in the fact that a contract has already been solidified with the YMCA?
Well, and I guess that's, part of the cost when you make hasty decisions. I mean, the presumption of a city council making a decision that's going to be enacted 3 years from now, I think was unfortunate. And
Sherry, if I could, I'm sorry. I have a question in regards to that. The Y and the city entered into an agreement together to jointly build a facility. The YMCA built a larger, or intends to build a larger pool facility than the YMCA itself is financially able to support because of this relationship and agreement with the city. If you were to pull out of that, is it fair to say that you could accept perhaps some financial difficulties that would be imposed upon the YMCA because of them entering into an agreement in good faith with the city and the city subsequently pulling out?
Thanks, Carrie, for allowing me to make sure that folks understand that I am in no way suggesting that the Y isn't worthy of support in the community. The Y is an incredible asset for downtown and will provide wonderful facilities for its membership. There's a whole different culture, though, between a membership-based organization and a community facility. And again, that was one of the issues that I had hoped would have more discussion at City Council that night. Again, there were several aspects of that contract that I felt just sort of were poor contract development, and the contract was actually silent on. How do we deal with disagreements when the objectives of the city and the
Sherry,
needs of the city are different?
Mayor Dave Burgess actually wanted to respond to that question, but I'll tag this question on before Dave responds. You've said that it would cost several hundreds of thousands of dollars in operational money to keep the Sportsplex operating each year after the new Y facility is open. We'd like to know if we translated that into property taxes, if it came out of property taxes versus general operating budget, how much would we be seeing in terms of a property tax increase each year?
Trying to put it quickly and simply, what you'd have instead of what we contribute for the first 15 years to the YMCA of a maximum of $750,000 a year, you'd have a minimum of over $1.5 million of total cost to the taxpayers every year. So that's over 2.5% minimum increase in taxes. And you really are looking at a minimum. That pool
I just want
would
to
be quite
clarify,
quiet.
the $1.5 million each year is if the city did nothing to upgrade or fix the pool.
No, it would have to actually do some upgrades, and that would be part of that cost of being over 1.5, because it cannot stay the way it is. And if you were going to keep it long-term, you would have to even expand that investment, because the overall envelope of that building cannot last with the way it is built as it stands.
All right,
So
I'll ask
are
you to
a
touch on
tremendous
the
amount.
YMCA contract for a second.
Sure. The YMCA, of course, if we ended up keeping the Sportsplex pool, which we did not want to do, back in 2007, 2008, we passed that we were supportive of the plan going forward that would include closing that pool. We've been working on this for almost 10 years with the Y, trying to come to an agreement. That was the step we took. So now to sign with the YMCA and then end up keeping that major size pool still open would be a financial burden that would be very, very tough on the YMCA. We'd probably have to renegotiate the contract that we have them to subsidize their losses at an even greater amount. And everybody knows pools do not make money. It is an investment in the community. But to end up changing and having not the backbone to end up closing behind what you should be closing
Thank
to
you,
move
Mayor
forward
Burgess.
is
I
wrong.
also see that Mr. Avlanides has a comment he'd like to share.
this one's going out on a limb. I'm running for mayor here, and I guess I had to kind of understand that I'm not likely to win this race. But having said that, investing I think it's $5 million. I asked Lon Cullen, the CEO of the YMCA, investing this type of money into this YMCA. I would beg to differ that I would think that the YMCA and the management team that they have in place, by rewarding them with a $5 million investment to build them a new building, when in the past I go to the Y and I spend my hard-earned money there, and I just came from there, and I look at that facility and I see very clearly that they do not properly maintain or manage the current building and facility that we have already as a city
Thank you
paid
very
for
much.
and
I'm
invested
sorry, we
into.
have over to Devon Ross of the Brandon Sun.
Question for the mayor. If a First Nation requests the establishment of an urban reserve within the city of Brandon, would you support such a request, or do you regard the result of the first plebiscite as binding?
Oh, actually, I've always respected plebiscite, and I've always said I would respect any plebiscite that we take. But also, I will share with you, I don't support urban reserves. Personally, I do not feel that way. I feel all people should be treated fairly, the same, and of course, encourage them to invest and prosper as all people in the city of Brandon.
Mrs. Decterhurst?
Absolutely. When you consult with people and they give you their opinion, you have to respect it.
So
So Brandon was pretty loud and clear that they didn't want to see an urban reserve here.
Okay. Do you regard, this is to Mrs. Decterhurst then, do you regard the result of the recent casino plebiscite, and the one before that, in fact, as evidence that Brandon is a racist city?
I think that there was a lot of unpleasantness in that plebiscite, and in fact, again, spoke to the elements of fear in our community. I think, though, seeing now the casino built in Carberry, a lot of people are thinking now we get all the bad from the casino and none of the good, and kind of maybe are regretting the fact that we're not having it built as an economic engine in downtown Brandon.
You're not really answering my question. You're on record saying that we live in a racist city. I gave you an opportunity to say, was it the plebiscite result that caused you to believe that? Can you tell me why you believe we live in a racist city?
I'm sorry, I didn't realize we were talking about that question. I thought we were talking about the casino. I was at a meeting at the beginning of the campaign where that statement was issued, and I had just heard from a group of Aboriginal people talking to me about the issues that they were having to deal with in their daily lives. You can see I'm a middle-aged, white, upper-middle-class woman, and it is amazing how strong they have to be to go forwards. Do I think that Brandon is a racist city? Absolutely, we have racist elements within Brandon. I think that the fact in the middle of an election we're talking about racism is in fact one of the benefits from a statement that I made.
If I could start, I've got an excellent question, came from the audience, and I'd like to start, and we'll go straight down. We'll start with Mr. Hanson. And it is as follows. Would you be in favor of introducing a 2% amusement tax to pay for the sportsplex, golf course, etc.? Henry, we'll start at this end.
I think right now in Brandon, people are fed up with tax. Taxes have rose this year 14%, and I think if we raise taxes anymore, we're gonna anger a lot of people. So no.
Thank you much. Sherry?
I am in favor of an amusement tax. In fact, I've probably paid my fair share of that as I'm traveling around to other cities that are taxing me for visiting their communities. Anytime we can raise money not on my tax bill, I think is a good thing. And again, it's never influenced me from visiting any of those cities where they do have an amusement tax. And in fact, half the time I don't even notice it on the bill.
Thank you. Mayor Burgess?
No, I would definitely not support an amusement tax. I believe we are well known for being a very business-friendly type of city. also a very fair taxing type of city. To add new taxes usually means they will increase later on and maybe even foster the appetite for other additional taxes. So no, I'm not in favor of that. I believe we are doing very well the way we are and would not want to add new tax levels to the consumers.
Thank you. Mr. Avlanides?
Yeah, I would have to agree with that with Dave. I think I don't think I would be in favor of voting in a recreation tax or an amusement tax. And for the record, I thought for the 4 years that if I was to be mayor, I thought I wouldn't vote in favor of any tax increasements on behalf of Brandonites for the 4 years.
Going back to the panel, John LaReggio.
I would like to ask a question. Let's look into the future. We talked about this with the councillors and the potential councillors. Doug Patterson, an outgoing councillor, brought forth house plans. We've heard a lot about affordable housing, attainable housing, whatever label you want to put on it. I would like to know from all the candidates, what is your vision of the city's role in affordable housing? Should it be a developer? Should it work in partnership with the private sector, or should it just leave it in the hands of whoever? I'd like to start with Henry and work down.
I feel with affordable housing and low-income housing, it should be at a collaboration between nonprofit organizations and for-profit organizations and developers. I believe they need to work together, and we need to find solutions.
So how do you see that happening, Henry?
I've thought of a few ways. I have, for example, maybe put restrictions on building permits. If you're going to build us a $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 luxury home, why don't you build us a few duplexes we could sell at a reasonable price?
Would that not put an unreasonable burden on the purchaser of the higher end home, who, by the way, is also paying a land transfer tax, which is fairly significant?
Well, I'm not an economist, so that'll have to be something I'll look into.
I'm going to take
Also, wouldn't this, Mr. Hanson, stop development if someone is going to build a $400,000, $500,000 home by slapping restrictions on them and saying you also have to build an affordable home along with your not affordable home, I guess is the best way to put it. Is that not going to actually have a bad influence on the housing market, slow it down?
I feel a profit could probably still be made on building duplexes and affordable housing.
But you indicated, I'm sorry to harp on this, I know that you feel very strongly about housing, and obviously it's an important issue in our community, but you indicated that somebody would build a $200,000 condo or a duplex, that basically they would end up subsidizing the construction of this through the construction of their $400,000 to $500,000 house. Would that not encourage developers to seek other markets to go to work in? If they're walking away from their profits, why would they employ more people, take on all of that business risk simply to watch their profits go away?
Well, that's a very good question. Like I said before, I'm not an economist, and that I believe solutions are out there, and we need to find them. And I think what Brandon doesn't need is more $300,000 luxury homes. What we need is homes where regular, everyday Brandonites can hang their hat.
I see.